Let me welcome on board none other than Naveen Munjal, the MD at Hero Electric, joining in on the show right now. Mr. Munjal, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Just wanted to understand what is your own view on how you're looking at the EV market currently. And are Ola's products, you think, going to disrupt the market in a big way? Because that really has been the coffee table conversation, Ola's bike.
Thank you, Aisha. A pleasure being here today. Now, to talk about the EV sector, you've got to first divide up different vehicles and different categories into different buckets: the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, and public transport and commercial vehicles. All of them are going to take off at a separate, different stage in their own life cycles. Now, the low-hanging fruit, the first ones to convert, are actually going to be the two-wheelers for multiple reasons. One, the infrastructural requirements are very different from the other forms of vehicles. There is a lot of parity which is there in terms of the price performance, in terms of the price as against IC vehicles. The charging infrastructure requirements are different, and distances covered are a lot less than when we look at from a commuter segment. The other factors are that now these vehicles, because of the support that we've got, so we've got very strong tailwinds with us in terms of the government policy. So we've got the central government policy, which is the FAME 2 policy, which has just been enhanced in June of this year. And that makes it a very, very lucrative policy. And besides that, we've got numerous state policies. We've got about 16 odd state policies right now. A lot of them are manufacturing-led, but some of them are demand-led as well. Now, what that means is they support you on top of what is happening from a central standpoint. And then there, of course, there is the PLI policy and the PMP and everything. So there are numerous policies in place which are pushing this electric mobility through. And of course, the gap that existed between TCO, the total cost of ownership between the IC and electric, was always wide. And that's only gotten wider now because of the petrol price being where it is. So the way that we see this market now shaping out is it's going to explode from here on. This market is going to be a very, very significant market. And I'm talking more about the two-wheelers here and the three-wheelers. This market will be a bare minimum of about 20% of the market if things remain the way that they are in the next 5 years. So that means about 4 million units in the next less than 5 years. Now, should things change in terms of policies become more aggressive, there becomes more mandates for IC engine companies to convert, plus the B2B to convert, etc., this number could actually be much, much higher.
Sure. Naveen, I want to keep this conversation in particular to two-wheelers, given that you also have your electric bikes and now with Ola's bikes as well at the launch. I wanted to understand what could be the demand and what is the potential really for e-bikes to take off for a car aspirational society that we are here in India. And a large chunk of the two-wheelers are, the demand is largely from tier 2 or tier 3 cities.
Aisha, we may be a car aspirational society, but the fact is that 80% of the vehicles on the road are two-wheelers. So we are a very large two-wheeler market, and that's what I was saying. That's what's going to convert first. Now, with competition coming in, whether it's these incumbents coming in or the new age entries companies coming in, this is only going to grow the market. So there's going to be more people talking about it, more companies talking about it. There's more variety for the customers. There's more choice for the customers. And that is going to be hugely helpful for them. So eventually the customer is going to go down and settle at a product where he finds the best value in terms of the price, performance, in terms of the durability of the battery, durability of the vehicle, the charging infrastructure, should that be required, or the portability of the battery. We have all portable batteries. And of course, he's also going to look at things like my running cost and the battery replacement when you come down to the end of life cycle. Now, so far, the data that we've got is that a large number of the dealerships, about 50% of them, have been opened in tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 towns. So it's not necessarily only targeted at the metros and tier 1 towns. Rural is also being targeted from that perspective by setting in sub-dealers, etc. But it's more, there's a very large proliferation already happening in the tier 3 and tier 4 towns already. And that's more for the scooters, the city speed scooters, as we call them. So we're going to have multiple bands. We have a baseline, which is the low speed vehicles, what we call as comfort speed. Then we've got a second definition, which is called the city speed category, about 45 to 55 kilometers an hour speed, and will give you a range of about 80 odd kilometers. And then you've got the high speed, where Ola and everybody, they've come into the picture. Now the second band, which is where we're targeting the commuter segment, that there the pricing has come down to sub 60,000 rupees across the country. And in states where you've got an additional policy, It's even down to close to 45,000 or even lower than 45,000, depending on which stage you're looking at. So highly affordable, very, very durable. In terms of the running cost, is extremely low. In fact, it's even cheaper to run a electric scooter than it is to get onto a public transport if you're in any of these metros. Multiple times cheaper than an IC engine in terms of the TCO, in terms of the running cost. And in terms of durability, like I said, we're giving anything from 3-year warranties on the batteries and then 5 years in the vehicles, whereby these vehicles are actually very, very robust.
Okay. Morning, Nikunj Dalmia also joining in. I'm going back to the entire Indian customer here, or consumer in this case. The reason why somebody would opt for an electric scooter would be perhaps A, you are conscious and you want to protect the environment, and second would be the arbitrage of cost. The arbitrage of cost perhaps at the initial stage is not there. So for a value conscious Indian buyer who believes in one tagline, Sasta Sundar Tikau, how does this appeal now kick in?
Nikunj, I would disagree with you on the initial purchase price. Now, as I was explaining, so when you look at our vehicles, which are the city speed category, which is the 45 to 55 kilometer an hour speed, see, a lot of times when customers ask for speed, they're not necessarily asking for speed. They're actually asking for torque. They want to get off the traffic signal. They want to get onto a flyover in a quick manner. And that has more to do with torque, not so much to do with the speed. So top speed, in any case, a large part of the time, we are not able to hit those speeds, whether it's 80, 90, 100 kilometers an hour. It's only in times where you're using the vehicle at night or at other times that you get those speeds. But generally, you do not. And in a commuter segment, exactly what you said, Sasta Tikau and a very good performance. That's what we're able to derive out of these the city speed category. Now, they're not buying it necessarily only because of TCO. They're also buying it because of convenience. So like I said, if you're living in a block of apartments and you don't have charging infrastructure on your ground floor, you can effectively take out the battery, plug it into a wall. They're portable batteries. Every one of our vehicle has a portable battery. Take it up to your apartment, charge it the way you charge your computer or your mobile phone, plug it back into the vehicle, and off you go with it. If you're a heavy user, we can give you 2 batteries or 3 batteries and taking your range up to about 210 odd kilometers on a single charge. Now, a large part of the customers are just taking 1 or 2 batteries, where the pricing, because of the subsidies, have come down substantially. So these vehicles are highly robust. They are very, very durable. They are the initial purchase price is much lower than that of an IC engine scooter. In terms of running, they're multiple times cheaper. And when you look at it from a convenience and ease of use, even if you don't have a charging infrastructure, there are no distractions. You charge it at home, go to your workplace, come back, and again charge it there. And in any case, because there have been range anxiety issues customers have had, so we've actually been installing a charging infrastructure as well. We've already installed close to about 1,650 charging stations around the country. Now, these are being installed in locations where you would generally go, markets, dense markets and grocery stores and those kind of places where you could go for a top up. Now, what we find is customers who go there, where we're installing this infrastructure, the customers are not really using it to that extent at this point of time. But nevertheless, it gives them a huge amount of peace of mind, huge amount of comfort. And so the sales go up dramatically in that area wherever we're installing a charging infrastructure. So it's more to do with range anxiety than actually using it, because they are charging the vehicles at home and don't necessarily need to charge it outside unless it's a top-up charge. Now, besides that, should you have a breakdown, and minor problems do happen at times if you've had a flat tire, those kind of things. So we've also been actually training these roadside mechanics, reskilling them to handle electric vehicles, which they couldn't handle earlier. So we've already reskilled about 6,000 of them. The idea is to take it up to about 25,000. And that's how we are creating this whole ecosystem, that should you have a breakdown, there is a roadside mechanic who can fix the vehicle for you. Should you actually need a charge, there is a charging infrastructure. And if you don't have charging infrastructure at home, you can actually charge it in your home. So it goes beyond just pricing and TCO. This goes into a lot of convenience. And of course, and at the end of it, environment is a very, very big factor. So no matter who we've sold the vehicles to, they may or may not have bought it because of environmental reasons. But once they bought the vehicle, they've tried it out. They are very, very proud to own an electric vehicle because they are doing the bit for the environment from that sense.
I've not had the pleasure of taking a ride on an electric scooter, but after this interaction, I'm tempted to call you back and perhaps go for it. But my question is, I'm going to use perhaps not the most appropriate example, but 2 examples to understand which way pricing is moving. Let's use Apple phone. Prices have gone higher over the years, but the features have gone higher. Second is more like a storage device where prices have gone lower because of competition and because of better technology. What will happen to your industry?
Because it's the same thing. We are following the same Moore's curve. So when you look at batteries, lithium-ion batteries, so when we actually first tried to introduce lithium-ion batteries way back in 2010, at that point, the batteries were about $1,200 a kilowatt hour. Now that pricing is close to about $130, $140 a kilowatt hour now. So the battery prices are dropping. In which case, what's going to happen is either the prices are going to keep on dropping, as we do find with the other electronic gadgets, etc., or the prices are going to remain stable and the performance of these vehicles is going to improve dramatically over the next couple of years. And the amount of R&D that is being done in terms of the energy density of the batteries and the efficiency of the motors and the drivetrains is immense. And that's at a global level. So we are going to see vehicles which are far better than what they are at this point of time. This range of vehicles is already better than what we had 3 or 5 years back. And now we're going to see dramatic changes going forward. And the chemistry is going to continue changing. So we are going to keep on seeing new developments in battery chemistries and energy storage. And that's inevitable.
What are the parallels which we can draw from global markets where the EV or the scooter adaptation is being strong? I mean, the first example which comes to my mind is Thailand. The number of people who are commuting using a scooter there, that's a very large number. What are the parallels which could be drawn?
See, when you look at China for that matter, now China has over 300 million electric two-wheelers which have been sold in the past about 15 odd years in that market already. Now they sell about over 25 million vehicles a year on for electric. But then they've got a dual approach. They've got three-pronged approach. They've got a stick where they don't allow you to sell IC engine vehicle in a number of cities. Then they give a carrot in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the subsidy that they would give a customer for buying an electric vehicle. And then they've created an infrastructure for the customers to go and charge the vehicle. So that's one part where they've got multi-billion vehicles being sold every year. Then you've got to look at Europe. A different market, different kind of product. It's more the electric cycles. But nevertheless, it's a 4 million unit market. Then you look at the US, 500,000 unit market. Then you look at Japan, again, a very dense electric bicycle market. You look at Taiwan, which is an electric scooter market. And then you look at countries like Vietnam, which is also converting to electric scooter. So we are actually from India. In India, we are actually leapfrogging technology. So we are not going down the traditional route of how a number of other countries went. Like even when you were taking the example of Thailand, Thailand's a decent electric vehicle market. It's not a very large market, not as large as Vietnam is coming in much stronger because of its the vehicle density that they've got there. And of course, China is extremely strong. So we are going to leapfrog technologies. We are going to leapfrog in terms of the performance of the vehicle. So India stands at a very unique position right now because of the approach that we are taking.
Hi, Mr. Munjal. Good morning. This is Mubina as well joining in. Do you think that right now EV adaptation will be purely for the purpose of intercity traveling? Because, I know you mentioned that you have set up more than 1,600 EV charging stations across India, but that barely, obviously, it's a small step, obviously, and I'm sure you will continue to install more stations going forward. But the one thing is there that right now EVs in India are not meant for long distance travel. Purely because of the lack of infrastructure, and that could take a little time to stitch up. We're talking about all over the country. So right now, do you think the EV market will purely be for short distance travel, intercity travel, intra-city rather?
Thank you, Mubina. Mubina, you're right. When I'm talking more about two-wheelers here, so the two-wheelers in any case are used more within the city. They're not used to commute long distances. The average distance that's being commuted on that a commuter does on a two-wheeler is quite small. It's sub 25 kilometers. When you go into the B2B segment, deliveries and all, there the ranges that's covered are much longer. And that is where we've again got vehicles for them. But again, they stay within a city. So they are within a neighborhood or within a city. So we don't believe that, two-wheelers at this point of time, at least the electric, are going to be used for traveling very, very long distances. Though people are using them in cities like Mumbai and Bangalore and large cities, even in Delhi, people are commuting from whether it's Noida to Delhi or Gurgaon to Delhi using our electric two-wheelers. And they are very, very happy with the whole result because the vehicle is good enough to get you there in the same amount of time that any other vehicle gets you, simply because of the traffic on the roads. And at the same time, there is a huge amount of saving that they've got on their pockets. In fact, a number of people that I've met in the past, they've told me, they're charging the vehicles at work, not even at home. So in which case, there is no running cost for them. So once they bought the vehicle, they bought the vehicle. And now the pricing of these vehicles, like I said, is extremely lucrative. So it's much lower than what a counterpart IC engine vehicle would be. So we believe that this is going to serve the needs of a last mile traveler and within the city traveling.
Making an EV requires a very esoteric mix of metals, most of which are not available in India. Would have loved to actually talk to you about the production bit as well, but unfortunately we are a little short on time. Mr. Munjal, all the very best. Thanks so much for joining us this morning and shedding so much light on overall EVs in India.
Thank you so much. A pleasure being here today. Thank you. Thank you for having me.